You are excited about relocating to a new congregation, making new friends, and getting a brand new start. Unbeknownst to you, a letter of introduction is soon to follow. In this episode, we will discuss this letter in depth. So, JT, what is this letter of introduction?
You're listening to The Critical Thought, where we challenge our listeners to use critical thinking when examining the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Hi, this is JT. Welcome to The Critical Thought, the letter of introduction. If you're not one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you might be saying, what is a letter of introduction? The letter of introduction is really the correspondence between two bodies of elders, the congregation that a person is moving from and the congregation that a person is now going to start attending. You see, when one of Jehovah's Witnesses moves from one congregation to another, certain things happen behind the scenes. One of them is known as the letter of introduction. The person who is moving from one congregation will typically be told by the secretary, give the secretary in the new congregation my address or my phone number and have him request your publisher's record card. Now, we're going to cover publisher's record card in another episode. But right now, we're covering the letter of introduction. Now, what's interesting is what these letters can contain. Basically, to put it in a nutshell, they can contain your entire life history as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. For example, a person can move into a new congregation and all the elders and everybody and seem so happy and glad to see them. And all of a sudden, everything changes. What's going on? They used to be so friendly when I came into Kingdom Hall, now nobody's speaking to me. It could be that letter of introduction has arrived. You see, it's very interesting how these things can be put together. When I was a secretary, our body of elders basically put together two types of letters. One, a general letter. In this letter, it would typically say something to the effect, this is Brother and Sister Johnson, they're good publishers, they attend the meetings regularly, their children are outstanding examples, so forth and so on. Use this brother and his family any way you brothers see fit. With a typical letter like that, I could sign that letter by myself. As a body of elders, we made a decision that if we had to send the second type of letter, it would require the entire service committee. So this is the letter, and this is what a lot of people have no idea about. The contents of this letter can cover your entire life as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Depending upon the body of elders, they can go back, and I have seen this in some letters, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years of things that took place in your life. For example, a brother may have had a problem drinking. A sister may have had a problem with immorality. And this will be included in that letter. So these letters literally portray what type of character you are. And many people have absolutely no idea. For example, sometimes a man may be appointed in the current congregation he is in. Then his family situation, he decides to move to another congregation. And what will happen? Sometimes this man will not even be aware that he will be not recommended. And only recently, a few years ago, did this become such a problem. The man would get to the new congregation, couldn't get recommended to be an elder, couldn't figure out why, because he got a bad recommendation coming from his other congregation. This issue became so bad that the society had to tell brothers, look, let the man know you're not going to recommend him. Don't let the man leave thinking he's in good standing and he get to this new hall only to find out he getting dogged. What's interesting is I recall one letter we wrote, it was a general letter. And in this general letter, it was concerning this sister. The sister was moving to a new congregation, so I wrote a general letter. Well, for whatever reason, something happened once she got to this new hall, and she assumed that it was the letter that I had written. And I explained to her, no, we didn't mention anything to your elders was negative of any kind. She says, well, I want to see the letter. And so we explained to her, well, because this is correspondence between bodies of elders, we can't let you see the letter, but you can rest assured that, we didn't mention anything of a negative nature. Well, that wasn't good enough for her. So what did she do? She sat down and she wrote the society a letter saying, I want to know what they said about me. Interestingly, the society wrote her back, and they told her, "Sister, this is correspondence between bodies of elders, and you will not be allowed to see the letter." Interestingly, they also sent us her letter as well. Now, she didn't know that we had an exact copy of the letter she sent to the society. Every brother she named, we knew exactly who she'd been talking about. Now, here's where the problem comes in at. Typically, elders are going to keep this type of information in confidence. But that's not always the case. Not at all. You see, sometimes you have what's known as elders' wives. Now, some elders' wives will ask a simple question. "So what's the story on this new couple that just moved into our hall?" And you'll have an elder that might tell his wife something along the lines, "All I know is the sisters better keep an eye on their husbands." And so now, nothing else needs to be said. So now, the elder's wife is out in the car group, and the sisters in the car group will say, "What's the story on this new family just moved into the congregation?" And the elder's wife will say, "All I'm saying, girl, you better keep your eye on your man. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying." And so all of a sudden, you come to the Kingdom Hall and you see sisters like holding their husband by their arm like, "He ain't getting away from me." You see, this is the type of culture that exists in the Jehovah's Witnesses. This is the type of stuff people have no idea, they don't know anything about. This is what goes on behind the scenes. And so the letter of introduction, depending on the body of elders, it can dog you for the rest of your life. Different elder bodies, and so there's no consistency. I know the time we received a letter that included 6 other letters. This brother had moved from different congregations over the years, and each congregation, they simply forward the letter from the last congregation, the last congregation, the last congregation, 7 congregations in total. So his entire life was right there. And see, the problem is that you have human emotions, you have human feelings. And so here's an opportunity for sometimes people will actually get back at people when they write that letter, because they know nobody's going to be able to read the letter. Nobody will see the letter. And so you have a letter that follows you for as long as you are one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, the same as a human resource department that calls up another human resource department and asks the question, "What can you tell me about this employee who's coming to our company?" Well, human resource people know that you can't say anything negative. So they have a system in place where, since we can't say anything officially negative, we will say as little as possible. And being that the person is from human resources, they know what the code means. For example, the person says, "What can you tell me about this person?" The human resource person responds back by saying, "I can only verify what dates they worked here." And that's it. Now, they haven't said anything negative about this employee moving to another company. But because they know the code, when someone in HR is talking to someone in HR and they say, "All I can tell you is he worked on these dates and I can't tell you anything else." Well, if you're on the other side, you don't need nobody to tell you anything. You done figured it out already. Well, see, the same thing in the congregation. For example, we had a letter that was written on us. Very interesting. Now, I was able to get my hands on my letter because I know how the system works. But anyway, we had shared the letter of introduction that was written on us that we were able to obtain on our Facebook and our WordPress blog so that people could read for themselves how these letters are written. One of our readers said, "I read your letter 3 times and I couldn't see anywhere where they trash your character." Well, more than likely, that reader was probably not an elder. You see, elders understand the language. In the case of myself, the letters indicated that I was starting to dress with worldly grooming. Lady C, she began to show a lack of modesty. Of course, it wasn't true, but it doesn't matter because it makes a statement about your character. From elder to elder, you understand what it means when an elder or an elder's wife is described in the terms of being immodest or dressing in worldly grooming. Nothing else needs to be said. We understand what that means. And so these letters of introduction, they literally have your life history as one of Jehovah's Witnesses recorded. And so everywhere you go, for example, a brother may have had a problem with drinking 15, 20 years ago. Why does this needs to be an issue now. It hasn't happened. He hasn't had a problem in this area, but the body of elders will tell. And so all of a sudden, when he gets to this new hall, these people look at him, haven't been drinking, having a problem with drunkenness 15, 20 years. But yet, they'll look at him like, gotta keep an eye on him. Make sure y'all watch the table with the punch around it. Make sure he don't do anything. And so this is the type of stuff that goes on. Sad to say. It's very sad to say. But this is what the letter of introduction does. It defines who you are as a person. So the next time you leave one congregation, going to another, saying to yourself, I'm getting a fresh start, be careful, because that letter of introduction will be coming shortly.
This program was sponsored by Critical Thinkers.